The most expensive tax you pay isn't financial, it's the wisdom tax. The years spent learning lessons that could have been acquired in minutes. You see, most people spend decades discovering what a few realize much sooner. That life follows predictable patterns that, once recognized, transform everything. The difference between where you are and where you could be isn't just knowledge. It's the right knowledge, applied at the right time. Think about it. How many times have you finally understood something and thought, I wish I'd known this years ago? We've all been there. That moment when a single insight makes years of struggle suddenly unnecessary. It's like we're all playing the same game, but some people got the instruction manual while the rest of us are learning through painful trial and error. Here's what's fascinating, though. These insights aren't secret. They're hiding in plain sight, obscured only by our assumptions about how things work. In the next few minutes, I'll share the mental models that took me decades to discover, but could have saved me years of unnecessary struggle. Let's start with perhaps the most fundamental realization. Your mental models determine what's possible for you. Chapter 1. Mental Model Upgrade. Your mental models are the invisible operating system running your life. They determine what opportunities you can perceive, what solutions seem viable, and what outcomes feel possible. Yet most of us never examine them. We're like fish, unaware of the water we swim in. Ever notice how two people can look at the exact same situation and see completely different possibilities? That's not personality, that's mental models at work. Let me give you a concrete example. Most people operate with a scarcity model around time. There's never enough. But what if time abundance is actually possible through intention, not efficiency? Instead of trying to cram more into each day, what if you fundamentally reimagined your relationship with time? We're funny creatures. We'll spend years mastering Excel, but won't spend 20 minutes understanding our own thinking patterns. Here's the reality check. Your mental models are either a bridge to possibilities or a barrier to progress. And upgrading them is the highest leverage activity available to you. But there's a catch. Seeing your own mental models is like trying to see the back of your head without a mirror. You need reflection tools. One powerful tool is inversion, thinking backward from the outcome you want. Another is seeking evidence against your beliefs, rather than confirmation of them. These mental model upgrades alone can rewire how you approach every challenge, but they require something most people resist: deliberate discomfort. Chapter 2. The Attention Economy. Let's talk about the most valuable currency you possess: your attention. In a world designed to fracture and monetize it, the ability to direct your focus is a superpower. Yet most of us never learn attention management. We're taught time management instead. It's like being handed a leaky bucket and being told to carry more water instead of fixing the holes. Here's what took me too long to realize. Attention management matters infinitely more than time management. Think about it this way. You have the same 24 hours as everyone else, but what you do with your focused attention within those hours determines everything. Most people's attention is fragmented across dozens of inputs, outputs, and distractions. But what if you practiced radical selectivity? This brings us to a counterintuitive insight: the power of selective ignorance. We live in the first era of human history where the problem isn't accessing information, it's filtering it. Yet we still behave as if more information automatically leads to better decisions. It's like drinking from a fire hose when what you need is a cup of water. The wisdom that transforms lives isn't about knowing more things. It's about knowing the right things and applying them consistently. We're so busy consuming information that we never create the space for integration and implementation. It's the difference between collecting ingredients and actually cooking the meal. Here's the paradigm shift. What if you treated your attention with the same care as your most valuable financial investment? Chapter 3. Decision-making deconstructed. Your life is essentially the sum of your decisions, yet nobody ever taught you decision-making in school. We learn calculus, but not how to choose a career. We study historical dates, but not how to evaluate life options. It's truly bizarre when you think about it. Let me share 3 decision-making upgrades that changed everything for me. First, the 72-hour rule. For any important decision, give yourself at least 3 days before committing. This creates a space between impulse and action, where wisdom lives. Second-order thinking. Most people only consider the immediate effects of their decisions. But truly successful decision-makers ask, and then what? And what might result from that? Third, and most powerful, inversion. Instead of asking, how do I get what I want? Ask, what's preventing me from getting what I want? This simple flip resolves problems that forward thinking can't touch. For example, don't ask, how do I become successful? Ask, what's causing me to fail? The answers reveal your actual obstacles rather than theoretical paths. Funny how we'll question a $20 purchase for hours, but won't question beliefs we've held for decades, isn't it? Here's the insight that ties it all together. Most problems aren't solved through brilliant solutions. They're solved through better problem definition. If you're solving the wrong problem, it doesn't matter how good your solution is, but implementing better decisions requires something most people miss entirely. Chapter 4. The implementation gap. There's a chasm between knowing and doing that most people never cross. It's called the implementation gap. We live in an age of unprecedented access to information. Yet transformation remains as elusive as ever. Why? Because we've been culturally programmed to overvalue knowledge and undervalue implementation. Think about it. We celebrate the person who reads 100 books a year more than the person who fully implements the wisdom from one book. Most advice is like trying to download software to a computer that doesn't have the right operating system. The information is correct, but the implementation environment isn't compatible. Here's the breakthrough insight. Tiny, consistent actions trump sporadic, heroic efforts. The compound effect applies to everything, not just money. Your habits, relationships, knowledge, they all compound for better or worse. When you truly understand this, you realize that small daily actions aren't just nice to have. They're the entire game. That's why the person who meditates for 10 minutes daily will transform more than someone who does a weekend retreat once a year. But here's where most people get stuck. They try to implement change through willpower alone. This is like trying to drive a car by pushing it. Technically possible, but wildly inefficient. What if there was a better way? Chapter 5, System Design versus Willpower. Environment design trumps willpower every single time. This isn't motivational, it's mathematical. Think about it. Willpower is a finite, fluctuating resource, but your environment is consistent and ever-present. When you understand this shift, you stop trying to become a more disciplined person and start creating environments where discipline isn't required. We're always shocked when our willpower fails, as if we shouldn't have predictable human limitations. It's like being surprised that gravity still works. The successful people you admire aren't necessarily more disciplined. They've just created systems that make success the path of least resistance. This leads us to another counterintuitive insight. Focus on systems instead of goals. Goals are about the destination. Systems are about the journey. Goals provide direction, but systems create results. When you understand this distinction, you realize something profound. The goal isn't the point, the system is. For instance, don't focus on losing 20 pounds. Focus on creating a system where healthy eating and regular movement are the default, not the exception. Here's what's fascinating.
This
When
is
you
very
get the
good.
system right, the goals take care of themselves. But systems don't exist in isolation. They operate within the context of relationships. Chapter 6, Relationship Dynamics Decoded. Most relationship problems stem from a simple reality: unstated expectations. We expect others to behave according to rules they never agreed to. Think about it. How many times have you been upset with someone for violating an expectation you never actually communicated? I spent years being frustrated before realizing this truth. Most arguments aren't about facts, but unstated emotional needs. When someone is upset about the dishes, they're rarely just upset about the dishes. The dishes are a proxy for deeper needs: respect, contribution, appreciation. Once you understand this pattern, you see it everywhere. The content of an argument is rarely the actual cause of the argument. Here's another relationship insight that had a profound impact on me. People remember how you made them feel, not what you said. We spend so much time crafting our words, but the emotional impact we leave is what truly matters. This isn't just touchy-feely wisdom. It's practical reality. Relationships also follow a fascinating pattern. They're shaped more by who you become than by what you do. This brings us to perhaps the most transformative relationship insight: the profound impact of selecting your peer group intentionally. You've heard that you're the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with, but it goes deeper than that. Your peer group doesn't just influence your thinking, it determines what thoughts are even possible for you. We're so busy trying to network up that we forget the most important relationship skill: genuine connection. It's funny how we trust the Yelp reviews of strangers more than we trust our own intuition about people, isn't it? These relationship patterns connect directly to how we approach success and achievement. Chapter 7, the success paradox. Most people pursue success in ways virtually guaranteed to prevent it. This is called success paradox. We chase certainty in a world defined by uncertainty. We follow prescribed paths in an era that rewards unique approaches. Let me share 3 success insights that completely changed my trajectory. First, the true cost of perfectionism isn't failure, it's missed opportunities. While you're polishing version 1.0, someone else is already getting feedback on version 0.5. Second, success comes from reverse engineering, not from following prescriptions. Study what worked for others, extract the principles, then adapt them to your unique context. Third, and most counterintuitive, there are profound benefits to strategic quitting. The most successful people aren't just good at starting things, they're excellent at stopping things that don't serve their larger vision. When you realize this, you understand that persistence isn't a virtue in itself. It's only valuable when you're persisting in the right direction. We celebrate the entrepreneurs who finally succeeded on their 10th attempt. But we rarely ask, what if they had changed direction on attempt 3? Might they have succeeded sooner? This is the moment you realize you've been playing life on hard mode because you didn't read the instructions. But here's where true transformation happens: when you shift your approach from goal-based to identity-based. Chapter 8, Identity-Based Transformation. Most change efforts fail because they focus on the wrong level of change. They target behaviors when they should target identity. Think about it. When someone identifies as a runner, they don't need willpower to run. It's simply an expression of who they are. Identity-based habits create lasting change, while goal-based ones typically fail. This is why the person who says, "I'm the kind of person who exercises daily," will outperform the person who says, "I need to exercise more," every single time. Let's make this concrete. Instead of saying, "I want to write a book," say, "I am a writer." Notice how different these statements feel. One is about having, the other is about being. We all know someone who's been trying to quit smoking for years. But have you noticed how the person who says, "I'm not a smoker anymore," actually succeeds? That awkward moment when you discover most of your choices were actually social scripts. The most powerful identity shift happens when you understand this truth. You're not your thoughts. You are the awareness that observes your thoughts. When this truly lands, you stop being a victim of your mental patterns and start becoming their architect. This brings us to our final chapter, where all these insights converge into a unified approach. Chapter 9, Wisdom Integration. Everything we've discussed fits together into a cohesive whole. The mental models you hold determine what opportunities you can perceive. Your attention management determines what inputs shape those mental models. Your decision-making processes determine what paths you take. Your implementation approach determines whether knowledge becomes transformation. Your systems determine whether changes become permanent. Your relationships determine the context in which all of this happens. Your success approach determines the ultimate trajectory. And your identity determines whether any of it feels authentic and sustainable. When you understand how these elements interact, you develop something remarkable: wisdom. Not just knowledge, but embodied understanding that transforms how you live. The wisdom tax is real. Most people will spend decades discovering these patterns. But you don't have to. Screenshots and notes can help you remember information. But implementation is what transforms information into wisdom. And here's what I wish someone had told me 30 years ago. The goal isn't to accumulate more knowledge. It's to need less. Understanding yourself is the foundation of all other understanding. When you truly know how your own mind works, everything else becomes clearer. So here's my challenge to you. Don't just consume this as content. Identify one insight that resonated most deeply and implement it immediately. Because wisdom without action isn't wisdom at all. It's just trivia. The most powerful question you can ask yourself isn't, what do I need to learn? But what am I ready to implement? 30 years from now, what will you wish you had understood today? Whatever your answer, start there. The wisdom is already within you. And hey, if you like this video, don't forget to subscribe and hit that like button.
That was
Also, let me know your thoughts
excellent,
on what I
dude.
just shared.
Really, really.